Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the peanut head bug. Of course, there is a scientific name for this bug that certainly makes it seem more sophisticated, but the peanut head bug definitely sounded a lot more fun. These guys love to live in tropical forests and can be found in Mexico as well as both Central and South America. Okay, so there's a few crazy things going on with this bug, so let's start off with the elephant in the room, which would be the peanut head. This bug reaches a length of up to 85 to 90 millimeters, with its head being as long as 10 to 15 of those millimeters. Other than being shaped like a peanut, this bug has false eyes that resemble that of a lizard or a serpent, which of course acts as a deterrent to predators. When being attacked, this bug will also spread its wings, which will then display another yellow pair of much larger false eyes, as well as releasing a terrible smelling substance. I feel like all of those traits have definitely qualified this bug to be on today's list, but let's just add one more for good measure. These bugs will also knock their heads on a hollow tree in order to create vibrations for mates. Okay, now I'm really done talking about the peanut head bug. In our number 9 spot today, we have the walking tree. Okay, so these trees got their name because of a myth surrounding them that would suggest they are able to walk. I mean, extremely slowly, but that's what it would seem. As cool as that would be to imagine trees roaming around the forest floor while humans aren't around, these trees aren't actually walking, of course, but what is happening is still pretty cool and definitely worth talking about. Basically, these trees just have a really amazing root system. Firstly, these trees look like they're almost on some kind of stilts, which isn't necessarily the most usual thing to see, but it's just all a part of their roots. It isn't quite clear why these trees appear this way, and there have been many theories as to why, but none have been proven yet. The walking myth comes from the fact that it is believed that as conditions on one side of the tree improve, the tree will be more likely to be regrowing near that side and will allow the roots on the opposite side to kind of just die off. This of course could potentially lead to very minimally small movements over an extended period of time, but it still makes sense as to where the story may have come from. The trunk is used in the construction of houses and other structures, as well as hunting spears, and the inner parts of the stilt roots are used as a male aphrodisiac. This tree produces a yellow fruit which is edible as well. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Brazilian grape tree. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. This tree is a slow-growing evergreen tree that features salmon pink leaves when it's young, before they turn green as it matures and gets older. That's not the only strange and interesting thing about these trees, however, as they grow their grape-like fruit right on the trunk, which isn't the most normal thing for trees. These fruits are purplish black and can be eaten raw, or they can sometimes be used to make jam. While this tree is very adaptable, in its preferred climate, this tree can flower and fruit up to 5 or 6 times a year. The most common diseases that affect these trees are rust, canker, dieback, and fruit rot. So while there's a lot about these trees that are of course similar to other trees in general, this one definitely has some unique features that landed it a spot here today. In our number 7 spot today, we have the zombie ants. Okay, this one might be small scale, but it is truly straight out of a horror movie. There's a type of insect pathogenic fungus that is commonly found in tropical forest ecosystems. This fungus infects a certain kind of ant, and once infected, this ant basically turns into a zombie. Good news is the ant doesn't suddenly go around eating others of its kind, but it is still being controlled and manipulated by this fungus. The ant will leave their nest in usual trails and head for the forest floor, which has better conditions for fungal growth. From there, the ant will then bite and attach itself to a major vein on a leaf and basically just stay there until it dies, which is usually around 4 to 10 days. During these days, the fungus will start to basically sprout out of the ant's head so as to be prepared to infect the next unsuspecting creature. Okay, that one might have been the grossest one on this list. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Amazon rings. This discovery was made by archaeologists, and while not much is really known about it, it was a discovery that did change what we once believed. So basically, a bunch of ditches were found in the landscape of the Amazon. Most of them are round, but there are also other shapes. It's unclear what they were used for, but the theories range from defense to drainage to maybe even ceremonial or spiritual reasons, But the coolest thing about these rings is that they are older than the Amazon forest itself. It is so unbelievable to see these ancient relics of our past civilization, and considering how we couldn't live without the Amazon rainforest, it's crazy to think of a time when it didn't even exist yet. Unfortunately, this discovery only happened because of the ongoing and devastating deforestation that plagues the Amazon and those who live in it every single day. In our number 5 spot today, we have Electrophorus electricus. This guy is way better known as an electric eel, despite it really not being an eel at all and rather a knife fish. Until 2019, this was the only species in its genus, which is super cool. These guys have actually been reclassified several times because of the fact that they really are just quite unusual. They grow to be around 2 meters long and are a dark gray-brown color on their backs, but more of a yellow or orange color on their bellies. They have 3 main abdominal organs: the main organ, Hunter's organ, and Satch's organ, which all take up about 4/5 of its body, but are responsible for the ability to produce electricity. Basically, they can produce either low voltages, which are used to sense their surrounding environments, or high voltages, which are used to detect prey and subsequently stun them. While this guy isn't a huge threat to humans, there have been a few documented instances of people dying from their electric shock, so I think this is one creature that maybe I'll just stay away from. In our number 4 spot today, we have poison dart frogs. These frogs do look kind of cute, but they apparently are one of the most toxic creatures on Earth. They can be a variety of colors from black, yellow, red, green, copper, or blue, and it all depends on their habitats and how toxic they are. These colors can help them to keep predators away, as it is a sign that eating them is probably not worth it, but if that's not enough of a deterrent, they've got a special weapon ready to go. It is said that the poison from one of these frogs would be enough to kill 10 adult humans, which is crazy. The name of these kinds of frogs came from the old tradition that the indigenous people of Colombia used, where they would cover the tip of their blowgun darts with the frog's poison before hunting. Aside from these guys being super small but super poisonous, another strange thing about them is that we don't actually know where their poison comes from, but at the moment it is believed that it may be their diet. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Hamza River. Many of us already know about the Amazon River, and in part 1 we talked about the Boiling River, but today we have a much less well-known river that is actually super interesting, and that is the Hamza River. This river wasn't discovered until very recently in 2011. This river is actually roughly the same size as the Amazon River, so why wouldn't we know about it? Well, it's because it's located 4 kilometers underground. This river also isn't really a river at all, but more of a slowly flowing aquifer. Both the Hamza and the Amazon River are the 2 main drainage systems for the Amazon basin, and the pair forms a geologically unusual instance of a twin river system that flows at different levels of the Earth's crust. While the Hamza is considered slow and only has 3% of the flow that the Amazon River has, that 3% is still 46 times that of the Thames. I'm not gonna lie, I never thought I'd get excited at the idea of a river, but this one is actually pretty cool. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Tyrant King Leech. These disgusting creatures were discovered quite recently, and I wish we never even knew they existed. These guys have 8 teeth, and their discovery came after one was found feeding on the mucous membrane of a girl who had recently bathed in the upper Amazon. Unlike other leeches, these guys only have 1 row of teeth, but they are disproportionately large. These horrifying things do not drop off their hosts after feeding, but instead will remain attached for days or even weeks. Because these guys prefer the mucous membranes, they aim for areas like the mouth, throat, and nose. Because of their small size, they aren't easily detectable at first either, but once attached, they can grow up to 7 centimeters, so surely they'd be noticeable by then. I'm not sure if these guys or the zombie ant fungus is worse. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Amazonian giant centipede. Okay, thank God this is the last one on this list because I am so freaked out by all of these creepy crawlies we're talking about today. These centipedes are the largest centipede species in the world, with the ability to grow over a foot in length. These gross things will prey on basically anything that they can, which includes other large insects, spiders, millipedes, scorpions, and even tarantulas. But because they're so huge, it also includes small lizards, frogs, snakes, mice, and even bats. They have crazy hunting techniques for the largest of their prey and have been known to climb to the ceiling of caves in order to get to the bats, which is both incredible and so scary. These things are also venomous, and while it hasn't been a common occurrence for humans to die from a bite, there is one recorded incident that took place in 2014. This incident happened in Venezuela, and a person passed away after being bitten by one of these giant centipedes after it had hidden itself inside of an empty soda can. There are a lot of dangerous things crawling around on the forest floor of the Amazon, but this one might take the cake on being the most disgusting looking.
10. City of Giants. We often talk about aliens being responsible for building great monuments like the pyramids, but did we ever consider it might be giants? In 2012, something was discovered deep in the Amazon that might suggest just that. A group of researchers, paired with a team of local guides, discovered what appears to be the remains of a large city close to the Ecuador side of the forest. At the center of the city was a large stone pyramid, 80 meters tall, with a flat area on top which held many artifacts. Scattered around the area were many things like old pottery and, most curiously, massive stone tools. They appeared to be much too large and heavy for any average-sized human to ever have been able to use. The government of Ecuador ruled that the formations were just naturally occurring, but the researchers heavily dispute this, saying that due to the rectangle-shaped bricks, cement-like bonding material, and perfectly circular holes, it can't possibly have been caused by nature. Instead, they, and others, believe that this was a city built by giants long ago. What you believe is up to you. Number 9. The Mapinguari Monster. There are many different tribes scattered throughout the Amazon, some without contact to each other, and some without contact to even the outside world. Yet one thing that they all have in common are their stories of a large 7-foot-tall rainforest beast, similar to many cultures' depictions of Bigfoot. The creature is described to be bulletproof and having long hair. It apparently also has a smell that is so strong it makes hunters dizzy. These stories are so widespread and similar that many researchers have gone out in search of the monster, with no luck so far. Some scientists say that this is likely just a legend passed down for centuries, dating back to when giant land sloths roamed the forests, but local people believe it to be a spirit that will kill those who hunt more than their fair share. Number 8. The Boiling River. Hidden deep in the Amazon forest is a hidden river with unexpected and potentially magical properties. Children are told the legends of the Boiling River, about a giant snake spirit that heats it up. Andre Russo went in search of the river after having been raised on the legends by his grandfather, wanting to know if the stories of a boiling river could possibly be true. He took a long journey to reach the supposed location of the river, having to ask permission from a shaman who guarded the waters in order to gain access and study it. Russo discovered that the average temperature of the river was a whopping 187 degrees Fahrenheit, with steam pouring out from the top. It's speculated that the river boils due to faults deep in the earth, but locals believe that it's a magical river with healing properties and use it in their medicinal practices. When Russo was there, he noticed the scariest part of the river, that it kills just about anything that falls into it, dead frogs and other animals floating around where he stood on the edge. Number 7. The Potu Bird. Throughout the Amazon rainforest lives a bird known as the common Potu bird. If it's so common, then what makes it so scary? I mean, besides its face. First, let's mention these birds' tendency to always be found in pairs of two, a male and a female. Because of this, legend goes that there were two children, a boy and a girl, living with their father and stepmother. The stepmother was evil and greedy, wanting to gain all of her husband's inheritance, so she convinced the man to abandon his children within the forest to die. He succeeds, leaving them lost in the forest with no hope for them to find their way out. However, the mother spirit of the forest took pity on them and adopted the two as her own children, making them into birds. Stories go that the call of the Potu bird sounds like children calling out in anguish, desperate to escape the forest and return to their family. If you think this legend sounds a lot like Hansel and Gretel, you'd be right. This one just contains a lot less candy and witches. Number 6. Dangerous animals. Well, we've somehow made it this far without mentioning the many scary and terrifying creatures hiding within the depths of the forest. Life in the forest has evolved these creatures to have many unique and frightening abilities in order to survive. Let's start with perhaps one of their most famous, piranhas. Piranhas live in the Amazon River basin and are known for their incredibly strong and razor-sharp bites, even being known to have eaten human flesh. Next, poison dart frogs. While beautiful to look at, as their name suggests, they secrete a poison that can cause heart failure in just a few minutes. Arachnophobes look away, as I'm going to tell you about the Brazilian wandering spider. It is one of the most venomous spiders on the planet, and 8 different species of them wander the forest at night in search of food. So you may want to double check your sleeping bag before you get in, as their venom can lead to trouble breathing and paralysis. Finally, a very famous name in the rainforest, the green anaconda, or man-eater. These snakes can grow incredibly large and kill their prey by suffocating them within a tight coiled hold. Number 5. Amazon rings. The Amazon rings are famous massive circular ditches, sometimes up to 16 feet deep and just as wide. So how could these geoglyphs have appeared within the forest? The reality seems to be that these were created before the forest itself even existed. It's hard to imagine a time before the Amazon forest grew, but studies suggest that these rings were created long before the forest was. It's thought to be more remnants of life in the Amazon before the Europeans arrived, with an estimated 6 to 10 million people living in the area. It's unsure just what exactly these rings were used for, and some people have gone as far as to suggest that aliens left the markings in the ground behind, a sort of Amazon crop circle. It's unfortunate that the discovery of these rings was a direct result of the clear cutting and logging going on in the forest. Number 4. Lost cities. Even as recently as the 20th century, explorers have been venturing into the rainforest for supposed lost cities that have never been found. Some of those explorers even becoming lost, never to be seen again, like the tale of British explorer Percy Fawcett. As it turns out, scientists have discovered that these lost cities that so many went in search of likely did really exist, thanks to some high-tech helicopter remote sensing technology. It seems that there were massive cities that were abandoned only some 600 years ago, and it's believed that up to 2 million people lived in the rainforest at one point. The cities stretch for miles and include things like complex waterway systems and large conical pyramids. The true mystery is what happened to this civilization. How do entire cities disappear into the forest without a trace? As these cities were built with mud bricks and are almost completely destroyed, we may never know what really happened to them. Number 3. The Man of the Hole. One famous resident of the vast rainforest is someone you've probably never heard of before. He is known as the Man of the Hole, as no one knows his true name or who he really is. So why is he so famous? He's indigenous to the rainforest and is known to be the very last remaining member of his remote tribe. The rest of his people were killed by farmers and land grabbers who wanted to make use of the land that they'd been living on. As a result, he is the loneliest man in the world, no one knowing his language or how to communicate with him. And it seems as though he doesn't want anyone to anyways. He has attacked government officials who have tried to come close, living on his now protected territory, digging holes to hide in and capture animals, earning his name of the Man in the Hole. It's also thought that he may be making these holes to try and capture anyone who would dare get close to him. He has been caught on camera only a few times, showing us that he's still around. Number 2. El Tunche. If you ever, for some reason, find yourself walking through the rainforest and you hear a distant whistling sound, it would be wise of you not to seek it out, especially if you've been stomping on a few too many plants lately. That's because what you are hearing might be the call of El Tunche, a demon who wanders the forest, protecting the wildlife and condemning those who would harm it. If you haven't done any damage to the forest, then he'll probably just scare you off. But if you have, you might as well start running. By calling out, the demon is trying to entice you to whistle back and reveal your exact location to him. If you do so, El Tunche's call will grow louder and louder, following you wherever you go. Eventually, it invades your mind as you sleep, drawing you into madness. I think that's a good enough reason to start being a little bit kinder to our natural surroundings. Number 1. El Lobizon. A widespread legend across South America is that of El Lobizon. It is a werewolf-like creature that can be seen walking on all fours and also on its hind legs. Different from Western and Hollywood interpretations and depictions of werewolves, El Lobizon is not created through a bite, but instead born. Any 7th son that is born in an unbroken line of boys will become the creature, usually transforming around their 13th birthday. The stories have caused people to abandon, give up, or even kill their own 7th son. Every full moon, the boy will transform into the wolf-like creature, hunting down prey with unmatched speed and endurance. While just a legend, with a place as vast as the rainforest, who knows if El Lobizón isn't hiding in those darkest hidden corners.
Kicking off the list at number 10, mystery spider. Yeah, for this first one, we're not even sure what kind of spider it is. How calming is that? Let's do it. Some kind of spider is making what's referred to as silkhenge. Yeah, this piece of spider art was first discovered back in 2013 by Troy Alexander, who posted a photo of it on the internet, asking for help in identifying what exactly he's looking at, but no one could help identify it because it's a totally unknown phenomenon. These structures are created by spiders or some sort of spider to help with reproduction because they're protecting their eggs. It looks quite alien, but this is all just to protect little baby spiders in that middle tip. There's one main spire that's constructed of spider silk, and that's where the eggs are contained, and then surrounding that spire is a sort of a circular fence that is also made of spider silk. Similar appearance to Stonehenge, hence the name Silkhenge. But to this day, we haven't found much. This was discovered back in 2013, and only a year ago, we got more information. Tropical science communicator Phil Torres recently visited Peru, and he got footage in 4K. It's beautiful. We no longer have to slide through the same 3 grainy photos. Check this out. Torres explains how this research has affected his well-being. Obviously, he said it's the thing that keeps him up at night because it's so annoyingly hard to find. Despite having seen it in so many places he goes, the next time it's like it was never there at all. Yeah, that's frustrating. It's also tiny too. In this recent clip, it's beautiful. Again, high definition. You can really see how intricate the work is, but Torres also discovered that these things are tiny and they come in clusters. So if you find one, there's probably a few nearby. Also, don't destroy it. We still have no idea who or what's making these silkhenges, so take some photos, hang out a bit, do some research. Number 9, the Brazilian wandering spider. Its bite can give you an erection that lasts for hours. That's a real fact, and that's how I'm going to start this point here. This animal is dangerous. Its bite, of course, will hurt you. You'll be sweating, blood pressure will increase, hence that side effect. They're more commonly known as banana spiders, so guess I can't eat bananas anymore. There goes my favorite snack. These little guys have been listed as the world's most venomous spider in a handful of years in the Guinness Book of World Records. We love records, record-breaking spiders. If its name didn't already tip you off, these things can be found in Brazil. There's 8 different kinds of wandering spiders. Avoid them all. That's my advice here on MA 10. That's it. How does that sound? Boom. Science is quite interesting here. They're trying to create the next Viagra using the spider's venom. That's why I started with that wild side effect. There's always a point to it. I'm not just being silly all the time. The future is here, friends, and apparently it's filled with spiders. Just cuts to a bunch of old dudes in the woods just hanging out like, please. Number 8. Bullet ants. They're called bullet ants because their bite feels like a bullet wound. Promising start. Awesome. They're also referred to as the Paraponera clavata, but that sounds like a dark curse in Harry Potter, so we're going to call them the bullet ant for now. They're commonly found in tropical rainforests in Central and South America. Their sting is considered, yeah, the most powerful in the world, hence the bullet thing, and its effects can last 24 hours. Yeah, another fun nickname for them is a 24-hour ant. They're also the world's largest ant, so you can really see it coming. You should see it coming, worst case scenario. These guys get you in a colony though, game over. There's a good chance you won't even survive at all. One bite is bad enough, let alone a colony. Its venom's so powerful, it's being studied right now for its use as a pesticide. Yeah, we're sacrificing ants to further our research on how to sacrifice ants. This is dark. That sounds pretty dark when you say it like that. There's actually an indigenous Amazonian tribe in Brazil, and they use bullet ant stings as part of a ceremonial process to become a warrior. I would not pass. I wouldn't even make it to the island. I'm not good with bugs. They have to keep a straight face the entire time whilst getting bit. That's so impressive. Number 7, dart frog. You may be thinking, thank God, a frog, something cute, something unlike the bullet ant. Guess again. Not this time. Small but mighty, the poison dart frog is one of the deadliest animals on Earth. I left the word poison out of the title. I juked you out. I did it on purpose. Its shiny yellow skin will certainly attract the eye, but if you decide to try and, catch one of these slippery boys, its poison can kill 10 fully grown adults. All bad. Indigenous hunters figured this out and they coated the tips of their arrows or darts in this toxin. The toxin created naturally here is called batrachotoxin. Another creature we've mentioned on this channel before that also has the same toxin is the pitui bird. That's in Australia though, it's far away. Either way, a lot of poison moving around us in nature. It's actually pretty alarming. Birds and frogs, I'm just gonna stay home. I'm just gonna stay home and do this all day. Number 6, mosquitoes. These guys suck, no matter where you are, but when it comes to the Amazon, like everything else, it's much worse than you could ever imagine. Mosquitoes are one of the most dangerous because they can fly, and you don't see them coming. And once they get you, the damage has already been done. They're just full of blood. How gross is that? They're horrible. If you travel to parts of the Amazon rainforest and you don't have yellow fever vaccinations or extremely strong mosquito repellent, you're gonna have a bad time. These suckers are clouds of malaria just waiting for you to walk into by accident. And then you go, oh, and it's too late. Number 5, decoy spider. Oh, these are all horrible. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small, but super smart. These spiders only measured to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web that they've created. See, this might sound scary, but this large spider is actually a fake spider. It's a decoy. It's a decoy spider that the small spider built out of various materials like food scraps, debris, even their old skin to make a bigger, scarier spider. That's horrible. I wish I didn't know this. Look, art is subjective, okay, that's for sure. I don't think this is the most lovely piece of animal art on the planet, but it works. It gets the job done. A rather impressive defense mechanism for such a tiny little dude. These spiders were only discovered pretty recently, so again, not much is known about them, as there still needs to be tons of research done, just like the other horrible spider on this list. It is, however, believed that this is a feature that has evolved in this particular spider, so it's possible we've only recently discovered it because it's a new feature. Yeah, how neat is that? Hey, spiders are learning new tricks. Hit that thumbs up. I'm so scared. Cheers. Number 4, the electric eel. First of all, never rub an electric eel like they're a genie lamp. You're gonna want 3 more wishes if you do that, my friend. That was the moray eel. That one can bite your fingers off, which is horrible. But you should never touch an eel in the first place because a lot of them are electric. As its name hints towards, these type of eels can mess you up even if you weren't to get the first hit. Specifically, the newly discovered 2.5 meter Electrophorus volti. Yeah, the Electrophorus volti. No, that's not a new hybrid car coming out on the market. This is a dangerous beast. It was appropriately named after Alessandro Volta, aka the guy who invented the battery, and it can release a shock up to 860 volts, more than 7 times the voltage of your average wall plug. It was recently discovered only a year ago that electric eels in Amazon rivers like to travel in packs. They like to travel with their friends, and they all head to the bar together. How fun is that? Packs of electric water snakes. Does it get worse than that? It can't get worse than that, can it? Number 3, black caiman. It can get worse than that. It can get a lot worse than that. If you're not a fan of alligators, you might want to skip to the next one. Black caiman is the largest family member in the Alligator Day crew. These super alligators live in calm, slow-moving rivers, places you wouldn't expect, you know, a dinosaur to be and jump out at you, essentially. Just like dangerous river snakes, one I might talk about later, these black caiman will take it slow and just wait for their prey to have a sip of water. And then at that point, the largest predator in the Amazon will grab its lunch and quickly return to the water, just like that. Be very loud and very fast. This thing eats birds, it eats reptiles, mammals even. Yeah. This thing can and will eat everything. Between 2008 and 2013 alone, there were 43 black caiman attacks on people. Yeah, a handful of these attacks were fatal. I'll leave it at that. Number 2, pink dolphins. We'll do a nice one before we do the horrible big bad number 1. Deal? Deal. Pink dolphins are the Amazon River. They're the largest of all river dolphins, and adults, more often than not, males end up turning pink as they age, and we have no idea why. Scientists aren't exactly sure why these guys are pink or why the color comes later in life, seeing as, you know, they're born gray. Our leading theory here is that the color is brought on by scar tissue that results from fighting with other dolphins or predators. I'm sure it's not an easy go, you know, swimming through schools of electric eels and all that jazz, so yeah, fair, it could be a pretty rough environment. Some old legends hilariously mention that pink dolphins maybe can turn into a handsome man in the evenings, and then during this time they would hypnotize and seduce young women before turning back into dolphins again near sunrise. Yeah, forget Morbius. I want to see that movie. That's a supervillain origin story I would pay to see. The pink dolphin handsome man. He has one day to find love, and then he turns back into a dolphin. Number 1, green anacondas. Of course, we have to talk about the anaconda, specifically the green anaconda. It's green like the Hulk, because it's always angry and scary and violent. This movie came out 25 years ago. I remember watching Anaconda with my family, and it made me extremely afraid of snakes, actually. This was probably the one that did it. So how accurate was that film? Although the green anaconda is a non-venomous snake, the boa constrictor is still one of the most dangerous ever. It's the most feared, definitely the most feared. Green anacondas live in calm marshes or slow streams, and again, they wait until their large prey gets thirsty, and once they come to the water, the anaconda suffocates and wraps around its lunch. Yeah. Anacondas hunt prey that's larger than us humans, so if they wanted to, they could for sure eat us. There's only no evidence of it happening because humans rarely interact with them in general, so anacondas probably don't know they could eat us. Green anacondas can reach lengths of up to 30 feet, so plenty of space for you and yours. Awesome. You and yours. He ended on a crack, on a voice crack. That's great. That's how scared I am as anaconda.
Starting us off with number 10 is the skunk ape. Late at night, a driver stopped to pee in an undeveloped area. His sister in the car claimed someone's coming as he heard branches snapping in the woods next to them. He looked up to see a dark-colored 7 to 8 foot animal running towards him. As he got into the car and sped away, they saw the giant beast watching them leave. That was the first ever account of someone seeing the skunk ape back in 1989. Known to be Florida's own version of the Sasquatch, and countless people have sent in descriptions and reports of seeing the beast, and they all match up. The thing is bipedal but walks with a bit of a hunch, and as you might have guessed, it's very much a carnivore. The worst bit about this one is that a photo was sent in to the Sarasota Sheriff in 2000 of the beast, and it looks like something out of your worst nightmares. Apparently, the anonymous person was leaving treats out for it to make it come back. Like, mate, it's a skunk ape, not a cute little fox or something to leave treats out for. Cut that out. Stop leaving treats. Jeez. Coming in at number 9 is the Maryland Goat Man. The title of this article was "Goats Shouldn't Walk on Two Legs," and I 100% agree with that. They shouldn't. Yet somehow one is. Legend has it the Maryland Goat Man is a half-man, half-goat creature who roams the forests of Beltsville with an axe. And there's two versions of his origin story. The first is that a man who kept goats went completely mad after a bunch of teenagers killed his flock. The incident made him bloodthirsty for revenge. But why would a bunch of teenagers kill goats? Like, what would they even get out of that? Is that what the teens are doing these days? Shocking. Shocking. Now, the second story is that a scientist was conducting experiments on a goat with human DNA and things went horribly wrong, thus turning the goat into a half-man, half-goat beast. The legend gained a lot of publicity in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when a huge German shepherd was found cleanly decapitated in the forest. People have reported seeing him for decades now, and I honestly believe them. But also, if it was created way back when, shouldn't it be dead by now? Like, what's the lifespan of a goat, you guys? Surely it's time has come, surely. At number 8 we have the Demon of Dartmoor. Now, legend has it, and it's not even legend, eyewitness reports say that the demon is a massive 4-legged hairy beast with glowing eyes. It's said to have a thick shaggy coat, round ears, and the limbs of King Kong. Exaggeration there, a little bit, but they are strong enough to tear straight through human flesh, so how much was I really exaggerating? Really? Over the years, people have thought it was a large wild cat or dog. Some think it's a bear or Wolverine. I didn't even know Wolverine was real. A falconer who stood 200 meters away from the demon said size-wise it's like a miniature pony and it moved like a feline but reminded him of a bear. Can that description give off any more mixed signals? Seriously. The founder of the National Research Network, Big Cats, even said this thing is definitely not a wild cat or a dog. He went on to say he saw a collie-sized cat in the area 10 years prior, but the Demon of Dartmoor is a lot bigger than that, so that's just great. The picture I saw of it makes it look like a mix of a gorilla, a boar, and my ex. Filling our number 7 slot is the Faceless. I feel like I just named a new species of people, like the Faceless. But anyway, this story comes from a member of the Philippine Marine Corps, and he said he went out on patrol after his unit received information about an enemy sighting. After 3 days of camping around bushes in the jungle and forests nearby, they found a figure in the distance. They started approaching the figure slowly, but the closer they got, the more the horror really set in. The person wasn't walking, they seemed to be floating, and that wasn't even the worst part. It was dressed like a normal living person, but it had no face. The soldier went on to say it was like the face of the person had been erased. Its skin was so pale it was almost translucent, like all its blood had been drained. It had bullet wounds all throughout its chest, and at one point it looked straight into the soldier's rifle scope, and the soldier claimed he had never been that scared in his life. Keep in mind this man is on the battlefield, so you can well imagine the fear. Now, I'm assuming the soldier saw the ghost or apparition of a dead soldier who had probably bled out from their bullet wounds, but the whole erased face thing is a complete mystery to me. Do you guys have any ideas? Let me know below. Now at number 6 is question mark. Honestly, I'm about to tell you the experience of a hunter in a forest who wasn't even sure what he saw, so how am I even meant to label this one? The man was in the deepest parts of the woods near a lake, and he'd hunted many times before, but this time things just felt off. For some odd reason, he felt like he was being watched, but he tried to just brush it off regardless. He was sat in a tree stand when he heard the howl of a huge creature making making its way across the thicket. He initially thought it was just a group of wild hogs, but he realized all the howling was coming from one thing. The creature was moving slowly, it was remaining out of sight, and it was moving through the lake. Mind you, the lake was about waist high on the hunter, so you can imagine just how large this creature was. It was advancing slowly and silently through the water and then dashed into the thicket. The hunter didn't actually manage to see the creature, but when he came back a few days later to get his bag, he found deep claw marks on the tree he'd been using and his bag was gone. And that's all he wrote. Coming in at number 5 is The Witch. Now personally, I think this one is 100% fake. It seems like special effects to me, but you guys can decide for yourselves. Now this video was uploaded by YouTuber True Chooser back in 2010, and it shows a dirt road with woodland on each side of it. In the middle of the road up ahead is this dark grey creature sitting on the ground. Like the body looks clearly human, except its fingers are creepily long and thin, and as the cameraman gets closer, the thing turns around and you can see it's a female with long hair and dark facial features. And then the video just conveniently ends. First of all, if that was real and you saw that sliding across the road, why would you get that close to it? Surely the natural thing to do would be just to stay in your car and maybe run it over. I don't know. Apparently the witch is from the game Left 4 Dead, and I'm pretty sure it is. Good try, True Chooser, but not good enough. At number 4 is the Michigan Dogman. Why are there so many hybrid human-animal creatures lurking around? I mean, I'm not mad at it, but is it a cause for concern? Maybe. The first ever sighting of the Michigan Dogman was in 1887 when 2 lumberjacks claimed to have seen a massive creature that had the body of a man and the head of a dog. Countless sightings of the beast have been reported for years, and the creature is usually blamed for the death of pets and horses. A photo was submitted by a boy who was just sitting in the back of his parents' minivan, and it's blurry, but you can definitely make out it's an animal of some kind, and it looks massive. If anything, I feel like the head looks like a massive tiger's head rather than a dog's. I don't know which dog looks like that honestly, but it does look bipedal for sure. A sighting in 1977 happened where 2 brothers were biking near Manistee National Forest, and one got left behind, and as he turned around, he saw a face covered in black fur watching him from behind a tree. But the face was a good 7 feet off the ground, and as soon as they made eye contact, the creature ran away. The brother followed him and noticed dark red bands of colored fur on both of his ankles, and I love how this thing could probably take him in a 1v1, but it just ran away scared. I sense the dogness in him. Maybe he just wanted a friend. Filling our number 3 slot is the Donkey Lady. I've read about a lot of legends. Now I've read a lot of legends in my time here at Top 10, but I've never actually encountered this one, originating in San Antonio, Texas. In the 50s, a woman was really badly burnt in a house fire, and I'm talking 3rd-degree burns everywhere. Her face was disfigured and her toes and fingers burned off completely, making her feet and hands look like hooves. On top of that, if that wasn't bad enough, both of her children were killed in the fire as well, which was the last straw for the woman, and I'm really not surprised. She slowly descended into madness. Locals in town decided to banish her for her crazy rantings, and she went and lived under an old stone bridge located off Applewhite Road. The bridge is between 2 forests or woodland areas where she usually hides and then attacks passerbys. I mean, should I be saying creature? Would she be a ghost by now? I have no clue. Anyone living in San Antonio, have you witnessed this? Let me know in the comments below. Now at number 2 is the Hodag. Now this one came from Wisconsin folklore and is meant to be a small but fierce animal, quite like myself. Found in forests and caves alike, according to an 1893 newspaper report, it was said to have the head of a frog, the face of a giant elephant, short legs with huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a spear-headed tail. I don't even get how you can fit an elephant's face on a frog's head, like surely the proportions just aren't possible. Claims about the beast were made by land surveyor and local prankster Eugene Shepard, who gathered a group of people to capture the beast. They said they used dynamite to kill it, and pictures of the charred remains were given to the media. I mean, are we gonna believe unreliable source Eugene? Are we not? It apparently went extinct after its main source of food, all white bulldogs, became scarce in the area. And finally, at number 1 is the Wendigo. Now this is a supernatural beast that comes from Algonquin First Nations folklore in Canada. Woohoo, Canada! They live in forests and other wooded areas, but the first thing you'll find out about a Wendigo is that they're a cannibalistic monster that eat and kill anything in their path. path. In the legend, Wendigos come to be when humans are overtaken by greed or when they're weakened by extreme conditions like cold or hunger. They're known to infect communities and people with the purest form of evil. Miss me with that. Looks wise, they vary. Some are known to be extremely thin with their skeletons pushing out of their ashy mummy-like skin. Other stories say they're giants who become bigger the more they eat. Their ears are pointed, or they sometimes have antlers coming out of their head, and their eyes are like sunken black holes of death. Certified. They're known to have certain powers, like their senses are heightened to like vampire from Twilight level. They have superhuman strength and stamina that lets them stalk their prey for weeks if they have to, just like the vampires from Twilight. They can move at the speed of the wind and can walk over deep snow or water without sinking, so far the Wendigo is looking like a Cullen. In terms of killing them, you can kill them with a gun or a bat, but more complicated stories about it claim you have to cut its heart out and melt it in a fire. And I mean, good luck getting close enough to it to cut its heart out. Honestly, it'll most likely cut your heart out before you even get that far, so I mean, pick your battles.
Number 10. Abandoned car. A desert park ranger on Reddit shared a few of their stories that they had experienced while working. One that stands out is their discovery of a burned and abandoned car. When they received the report, they weren't too shocked, as it wasn't a rare occurrence that cars would be stolen and abandoned, occasionally being burned. When they found the vehicle, and as they waited for the fire department to arrive, they were left standing in shock, as it was clear that there was a body left in the front seat of the car. They discovered rope and other strange items in the car, and it was determined that the body had been tied up and killed. The police arrived, but no answers ever came about what had happened there, and they now refer to the area as the haunted site. Number 9. Abandoned sites. It's not uncommon to find abandoned campsites in the woods, but these rangers share their stories of the unique, strange, and scary things they found that made them stand out. The first was an abandoned house, with a small shed hidden behind it. The shed had a large steel door which had been broken off its hinges when they found it. The windows had been boarded over and covered up, but venturing inside, they found only a queen-sized bed covered with burned sheets. The next was an abandoned tent found very close to the walking trail. Inside was a large stash of food like beans and rice, a sleeping bag, and a lonely teddy bear. Sometimes the stories with the least information and answers are scariest, as they allow our minds to wander and imagine various frightening scenarios. Number 8. Search returns strange evidence. A ranger and their coworker were called to head out and search for a group of teen hikers that had become separated from their group. They spent most of their day heading in the direction of where the teenagers had last been seen. Eventually, deep into the woods and their journey, they came across a startling discovery. They found branches which had been carved into spears placed into the ground, unidentifiable carvings in trees, children's stuffed toys hanging from ropes tied to the trees. One thing they noticed was that the symbols in the trees appeared to be freshly carved. As would be expected, the two were spooked, but settled down nearby as night was coming and they had to sleep. In the morning, they discovered shoe prints and a piece of fabric that had become caught on a tree. Someone had been there in the night. The teens were later discovered and the two workers returned back to base, never knowing who had been in the woods with them that night. Number 7. Strange creature. A camp counselor in New York made a scary discovery when he was sneaking out late at night to meet up with his girlfriend. It was about 1 a.m. when he heard rustling in the woods next to him, expecting to be faced with something like a bear, deer, or other wild animal. Unexpectedly, a creature burst forth from the bushes towards him. In the darkness, he described the creature's appearance as being 3 feet tall, standing on 2 legs, and having 2 arms, looking like a miniature person. While it can be easy to misidentify animals in the dark of night, I personally can't think of any normal forest creature that would match anything close to this description. He then moved towards it and it apparently got scared, running away in a strange manner that the camp counselor described as being similar to doing the robot dance. To this day, he has no idea what the creature might have been. Number 6. Light on the cliff. An unfortunate part of being a park ranger is having to go on search and rescue missions for missing people, and never knowing what state you might find them in, if at all. One park ranger recounts a story of him and his coworker on one of these calls, searching for a man in his 20s who had gone missing. As they spent the day searching with no luck, they decided to set up a camp and rest for the night. At about 2 a.m., he got up to go to the bathroom when he spotted a bright light moving on a cliff a few miles away, saying it looked to be like a flashlight beam. In the morning, they went to search that area and unfortunately found the missing man's body at the base of the cliff. What caught the ranger's attention was a flashlight, similar to the one he thought he had seen on the cliff. So it seems to make sense. The man had been walking with his flashlight and had unfortunately fallen. But it doesn't end there. When the coroner arrived to inspect the body, it was determined the man had clearly been dead for over 48 hours. So how could it have been him shining his flashlight on the cliff the night before? Apparently, another search and rescue team member had been near the area and hadn't seen any other people. To this day, there seems to be no explanation for what that light was. Number 5, burned mannequins. Another park ranger on Reddit shared his experience while working at a national wildlife refuge that had formerly been home to a US Army lab site. The site had been completely transformed to become a wildlife refuge, with years of thorough cleanup needing to be done on things like barbed wire fences and barricades before it could be opened. One night, when the ranger was walking deep into the forest, he saw figures in the distance. This caught him off guard, as you're not permitted to leave the trails at all. So who was out there? The ranger announced himself and moved closer, and what he discovered was 6 mannequins in military uniforms, which appeared to have been badly burnt. 6 burned figures standing around in the woods in the dark of night would have been scary for anyone to stumble upon, though apparently he chalked it up to having been part of a fabric test. Still pretty scary to discover though, and to think it was somehow missed in the decade-long cleanup of the park. Number 4, only resident. A park ranger for a small island was the only year-round resident of the area. The island had no bridges or ferries and could only be accessed by private boats. The island would be crowded in the summer, but in the off-season, the island was only inhabited by the ranger. Walking at night, he was adventuring around the island, seeing if he could hike the entire distance. He saw a flash of white in the distance, thinking it was a herd of the brown and white deer which were local to the area. He pressed forward, before hearing something move again. Suddenly, out of the woods came a 6-foot-tall man wearing a bright white shirt. He sprinted straight up to the ranger with a strange grin on his face before shouting and laughing loudly, quickly sprinting back into the woods again. The ranger was rightfully terrified because, as far as he knew, he was the only person on the small island. For the next few days, he tried to find any evidence of another person living on the island, but never found any campsite, boat, or other signs of life. Number 3, mysterious stranger. A ranger was leading a hiking trip to the top of a mountain in North Carolina, a difficult hike far from any civilization. When they reached the peak, they set up a camp on a beautiful clear night. Since it was so nice out, after the group had gone to bed in their tents, the ranger chose to sleep outside in a hammock, reading a book to pass the time. Due to the brightness of the camp and the moon, it was easy for them to see around the camp and the trail that they had taken to get there. They were soon caught off guard by the sight of something moving, expecting it to be a bear. But as they got closer, they realized it was the shape of a person. They found it odd to see someone at the top of the difficult and long trail at night with no light or any sign of gear. They watched the person move closer towards the camp before the figure stopped, staring out at the camp. The figure stood there for a while before moving to sit under a tree, still staring intently. The ranger watched the man sit there for what was apparently a few hours before the figure got up and made his way back down to the trail. This left the poor ranger with a paranoid feeling of being followed for the remainder of the trip. Number 2, deer head. It's not uncommon to find animals or animal remains in the woods, circle of life and all that, but a Yellowstone ranger described their very bizarre experience which occurred near a valley deep into the park. While walking a trail, they found in the middle of the path the head of a deer. What was strange was that the head was perfectly clean, no sign of blood and no sign of an animal having tried to eat it. The ranger didn't find any other signs of other animals that may have been around the area and done this. They also had no explanation for why a human may have done this, as it was a doe with no antlers that a hunter may want to collect. The experience left the ranger shaking and desperately trying to come up with an explanation for the bizarre and shocking discovery, but none could be found. Number 1, skin changer. One wildland firefighter shares a story that his supervisor had told him many times. Apparently, in Idaho, the crew had been working on a large fire incident and would have to be there through the night in order to deal with it. The supervisor went out on an ATV to get a look at the nearby area when a large cat, seemingly a bobcat, ran out into the road. The animal stood there and stared at him for a while, before letting out a loud scream and running up a tree nearby the road. While startling, it didn't appear to be any reason for concern. Further down the road, he discovered an abandoned cabin. This was also strange as the land was federal property and there should be no buildings. The house appeared derelict and was boarded up, everything inside appearing incredibly out of order. Unsettled, the supervisor got back on his ATV to head back, but at the exact same place where he had seen the bobcat, a woman stood in the road with a nightgown and bare feet. He asked if she needed help, to which she responded with a scream, before running up the same tree the bobcat had, faster than any human would be able to. After returning, he asked locals about the cabin in the area, recounting his experience, to which they told him that he had likely had an encounter with a skin changer.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have pink dolphins. There's a few weird things going on with these guys, but let's start with the most obvious, which is of course their color. These residents of the Amazon River are the largest of all river dolphins, and adults end up acquiring a strange pink coloring, which is more prominent in the males. Scientists aren't exactly sure why these guys are pink or why their color comes later in life, as they are born with a more gray color that is usually expected of dolphins. There are of course theories as to how they get their colors, however, with the most common being the thought that the color is brought on by scar tissue that results from either rough games or fighting with other pink dolphins or predators. I said at the beginning of this point that they are strange for a few reasons, and while their super unique and gorgeous color is one, the other has less to do with them and more about a very interesting legend that surrounds them. Legend goes that these dolphins actually transform into very handsome men in the evenings, and during this time they hypnotize and seduce young women before turning back to dolphins again near sunrise. The origins of this myth are rooted in some pretty dark cover-ups, so I think it's best if we just lay that one to rest and let these dolphins not take the blame for humans' awful behavior. In our number 9 spot today we have the boiling river. It is pretty common knowledge that the Amazon is home to the longest river in the world, but there is another river found in the Amazon rainforest that is equally as astonishing, but for a very different reason. The boiling river got its name for being exactly that, as it is a river that is near a boiling point at all times. The water temperature reaches up to 93 degrees Celsius, which is just shy of the boiling point, and the steam coming off of the surface of the water is an obvious warning to all living creatures that it is absolutely unswimmable. You could, however, poach an egg in this river, although that's probably not the recommended cooking method. There is still debate around the source of heat for this river, but as of right now it is believed to be entirely natural and geothermal. Despite the river not being near any active volcanoes or geothermal vents, it is quite an anomaly. There are of course more local legends that state the river is a place of power and that the Mother of Waters is responsible for the creation of this incredible and strange river. Either way, just don't swim in the river and everything will be fine. In our number 8 spot today we have Victoria amazonica. This water lily is one of many abnormally large things that can be found in the Amazon rainforest, and it is found in the shallow waters of the Amazon River basin. These lilies are not only the world's largest water lily, but they can also hold the weight of an adult human. They will begin to flower as the sun sets and take up to 48 hours to completely open, and they are absolutely beautiful. These flowers are not only super strong and super beautiful, but as they open they also release a wonderful scent, which leaves me wondering if there's anything they can't do. One thing to be careful of though, if you encounter one and decide to step on it, it is that their leaves have thorns to protect them from predators, so watch out for those. Actually, on a second thought, just because they can hold a human doesn't mean we have to step on them at all. Let's just admire their beauty and strength from afar and let them just be lilies like they're meant to be. In our number 7 spot today we have the patu. I don't know if that's how you say that, but that's who we're going with. Okay, these guys definitely aren't the strangest thing on today's list, but they certainly look extremely strange. I'm sure a lot of us have seen a picture of them at some point because of their wild appearance that reminds you of your one friend that just can't quite keep it together, but despite them having a bit of a silly look on their faces, these birds actually possess some pretty cool skills. They are masters at disguising themselves and have the ability to remain motionless for days on end. They're nocturnal creatures, so it isn't often that we get to spot them flying around, and during the daytime they're so good at camouflaging themselves that you'll likely only be seeing them if they want to be seen. This is just one of those scenarios where we are reminded to not judge a book by its cover, because despite their goofy appearance, they're actually pretty serious birds with some serious talent. In our number 6 spot today we have the bullet ant. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. I'm sure the bullet ant is one creature on this list that many of us know about, but that certainly doesn't mean it isn't very strange. These creatures are obviously ants, but with one feature that makes them unlike others of their kind. They are the world's largest ant, which is cool, but their name is where things get a little crazy. Some people believe they are named for their size, as they are roughly the size of a bullet, but it is much more widely speculated that they are named because of the fact that their sting feels like getting shot by a bullet. I have not seen a bullet ant in real life, or been bit by one, and also haven't been shot, so I cannot confirm any of these things, but that's just what the internet tells me. The pain is said to last for 24 hours and causes waves of burning, throbbing, and all-consuming pain, which sounds like something I absolutely do not want to experience. Maybe these guys are where the term small but mighty comes from, considering their bite is considered to be one of the most painful things a person can experience. I think I might try my best to stay away from them, even though it's unlikely I'll die from a bullet ant. I'm just not taking any risks, and I'd rather not go through that kind of pain if I can avoid it. In our number 5 spot today we have Rafflesia. Okay, remember how I said that there's a bunch of abnormally large things that can be found in the Amazon rainforest? Well, here's another one just to prove I wasn't lying. This flower is the world's largest flower, but it also has no roots, no stems, and no leaves, and instead lives as a holoparasite on the vines of a tetrastigma, which is a genus of plants in the grape family. This flower is very similar to fungi, and the only identifiable feature that is distinctly plant-like are the huge flowers, but even those are unusual, of course, due to their unbelievable size, as well as their reddish-brown color. One more strange part about these huge flowers is their smell, which apparently is comparable to rotting flesh. These flowers are also apparently on the verge of extinction, so between that and the smell, I feel like this might just be a flower to stay far, far away from. In our number 4 spot today we have the decoy building spider. Okay, I do not like spiders, so I really didn't want to include any on this list, but I absolutely had to once I found out about this small but mighty creature. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small but super smart. These spiders only measure to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web they created. This might sound alarming, but this spider is actually a decoy that the small spider built out of various materials such as food scraps, debris, and even their own old shed skin. It might not be the most beautiful work of art, but that is an unbelievable defense mechanism for such a tiny creature. These spiders were actually only discovered pretty recently, so not too much is known about them, as there still needs to be a ton of research done. It is, however, believed that this is a feature that has evolved in this particular spider, so it is possible that we only recently discovered it because it might be a newer feature. But the Amazon rainforest does hold many, many living creatures that we have yet to identify, so who really knows? All in all, this spider is very unique and strange, and basically the Michelangelo of spiders. In our number 3 spot today we have the corpse flower. Okay, we're back with another strangely large thing, and this time it is another flower that is called the corpse flower, which is a terrible nickname for a flower. This flower is deep green on the outside and a beautiful burgundy color on the inside, and it also features the world's largest unbranched inflorescence in the world. Both male and female flowers grow inside of the same inflorescence, but the females bloom first, with the males following in a day or two, which usually prevents the flowers from self-pollinating. These plants usually require 7 to 10 years before the initial blooming period, and after that, the blooming tends to be fairly sporadic. Some will take another 7 to 10 years, and some are able to bloom every other year. As the flower blooms, it is around human body temperature, which allows for its scent to be quite prominent, which you'd think would be nice, but apparently this is another flower that smells like a rotting corpse, which is where it gets its awful nickname from. These odors, however, are super helpful to the plant, as it allows it to attract pollinators, which are usually insects that like to feast on rotting flesh. So I guess while the scent is unbelievably unpleasant to humans, at least there are creatures that are more helpful to this flower that actually enjoy it, which I guess is just probably for the best. In our number 2 spot today, we have this plastic-eating fungi. This is a fungi that could help us solve one of the world's most pressing issues, which is the overpopulation of plastic. We have way too much plastic on this earth and virtually no way to get rid of it, but this discovery could help us fix that. This is the very first fungus ever found that can support itself on polyurethane in anaerobic conditions, which means that it not only can consume plastic, but it also does not require oxygen for growth. In fact, oxygen may even affect it negatively, which could make it a perfect species to help remove plastic from our oceans and other places with little to no oxygen. This is a fairly new discovery, which means it of course is still in the research phase. It will require more time before we are exactly sure how to best utilize its incredible properties, but this may be the solution to one of humanity's biggest questions and problems. And of course, this isn't a ticket to just start throwing plastic in the oceans, and should serve as a reminder to us all that our Earth is full of unbelievable things, and if we stopped ruining it for a second, we might be able to realize its full potential and see just how lucky we all are to have such a beautiful planet. In our number 1 spot today, we have Silkhenge. Okay, we already talked about one spider that was actually pretty cool, and begrudgingly I have to talk about another one because it also is equally as unbelievable, but here's the strangest part about it. We don't even actually know what the spider is. There is some kind of spider that is making what is referred to as Silkhenge. This piece of spider art was first discovered in 2013 by Troy Alexander, who posted a photo of it on the internet asking for help in identifying it, but no one could help because it's a totally unknown phenomena. These structures are created by spiders and help with reproduction because they're actually protecting eggs. There's one main spire that is constructed of spider silk, and that is where the eggs are contained, and then surrounding that spire is a sort of circular fence that is also made of spider silk. The name comes from its similar appearance to Stonehenge, and no one knows what kind of spider is making these insane structures, or if it's a multitude of different kinds of spiders. Either way, it certainly is one of the most astonishing things being created by a tiny, mysterious creature. Hopefully one day we find out the creators of these sculptures so we can give them the proper credit they deserve.
Number 10. Decoy spider. These decoy building spiders are exceptionally small, but they're exceptionally smart. Smart spiders? That's terrifying already. These spiders only measure to be about 5 millimeters in length, but you might see a much larger spider hanging out in a web that they've created. Now, this might sound alarming at first, but this larger spider is actually fake. Yeah, it's actually a decoy spider that the small spider built out of various materials, such as food, scraps, debris, and even their old skin. These spiders were only discovered pretty recently in the Amazon, so not too much is known about them, as there still needs to be tons of research done. All we know is that they like to make things that look like a large spider, and that's terrifying enough. Maybe it's for defense purposes, or maybe it's like the ancient Romans, you know? Maybe they're just statues honoring a spider god. That's terrifying. I take that back. Number 9. Red belly piranha. I don't have to explain to you why a piranha is a bad idea to get near. I mean, we've all seen Piranha 3DD, right? That's a timeless classic. Well, the red-bellied piranha is one of the most dangerous piranhas in the piranha game. Its behavior is way more aggressive than that of an average piranha. It's almost like an acre of the rainforest disappearing every second is making it more aggressive. Yeah, I'd be aggressive too in those waters, no doubt about it. Number 8, the electric eel. I say, ooh, girl, don't touch this. First of all, never rub an electric eel like that. Never rub one like they're a genie lamp. You'll want more than 3 wishes at that point. That's horrible. That was the moray eel. That one, bite your fingers off easily, but you should never touch an eel in the first place because a lot of them are electric. As its name suggests, these type of eels can mess you up even if you were to get the first hit. Specifically, the newly discovered 2.5 meter Electrophorus volti, appropriately named after Alessandro Volta, aka the guy who invented the battery. It can release a shock up to 860 volts, more than 7 times the voltage of a wall plug. Number 7, the green anaconda. Of course we have to mention the anaconda. It's so scary, the biggest snake ever. That's horrible. This movie came out 25 years ago. I remember watching it with my family. It made me extremely afraid of snakes and water. Although the green anaconda is a non-venomous snake, the boa constrictor is still one of the most feared. Obviously, look at its size. Green anacondas live in calm marshes or slow streams. They wait until their large prey gets thirsty, and once they come to the water, the anaconda suffocates its lunch. It wraps itself around it like 17 times. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. And then it just slowly eats it. It's so scary. It's so dinosaur, really. Anacondas hunt prey that's larger than us humans, so if they wanted to, they could for sure just swallow us whole. There's only no evidence of it happening because humans rarely interact with them. So yeah, let's keep that ratio at the 0 point. That would be great. Don't be the first guy to get eaten by an anaconda, please. Number 6, the boiling river. Ooh, this one's hot. It's real hot. It's pretty common knowledge that the Amazon is home to the longest river in the world, but there is another river found in the Amazon rainforest that is equally as astonishing, but for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, it's not good. As its name suggests, water temperatures in the boiling river reach up to 93 degrees Celsius. The steam coming off the surface of the water sure is inviting, but animals and humans know better by now. Yeah, no skinny dipping in this river, or any river for that matter. I don't know, there's still water snakes. There's still debate around the source of the heat for this river, but as of right now, it's believed to be entirely natural and geothermal. Now, despite the river not being near any active volcanoes or geothermal vents, it is quite an anomaly. It's odd, just a hot, inviting river for no reason. There are local legends, of course, that say the river is a place of power and that the mother of the waters is responsible for the creation of this incredible and strange, mystifying river. Yeah, I like the sounds of that way more than geothermal activity. That's cool. Oh, the mother of the waters? Yeah, she heated this one up. Come on in. Geothermal. I'm like, it's hot. You might burn your toes. Number 5, black caiman. If you aren't a fan of alligators, just go ahead and skip to number 4, I guess, because this one's terrifying, honestly. These super alligators live in calm, slow-moving rivers, of course, like the big bad anacondas, places you wouldn't expect a dinosaur to jump out at you. Essentially, that's where you're gonna find one. Just like dangerous river snakes, these black caiman will take it slow. They'll wait for their prey to have a little sip of water, and then, and only then, the largest predator in the Amazon will then race out and grab its lunch, and then quickly return to the water. It's so scary. I've seen this on Reddit. They're fast. They are quite fast. Birds, reptiles, mammals, you name it, this thing can eat it all, and it will eat it all with this big chomping mouth. Between 2008 and October 2013 alone, there were 43 black caiman attacks on people. Yeah, human beings. So stay away from the Amazon, stay away from the water. Don't do anything. Don't even go to zoos anymore. Just stop. Don't even exist. Number 4, silkhenge. We don't even know what spider this is. So yeah, mystery spider leaving mystery art. Here we go. He's the Banksy of spiders. Let's talk about him. There's some sort of spider that's making what is referred to as a silkhenge. Now it's tiny. It's on a little leaf. You will miss this. That's why it's so rare to find. This piece of spider art was first discovered in 2013 by Troy Alexander. Side note, what an amazing name. Like Troy Alexander, you're a Greek goddess, my friend. Troy Alexander posted a photo of it on the internet asking for help in identifying it. I mean, because obviously it's so alien, but nobody can help identify because it's a totally unknown phenomena. And these structures help with reproduction because they're actually protecting eggs. That's the whole purpose. There's one main spire that is constructed of spider silk, and then that's where all the eggs are contained. Then there's also a wall or a fence that's made of spider silk to protect all the eggs in the middle. Therefore, it looks like Stonehenge. That's where it gets its name from, obviously. Stonehenge, silkhenge, they look the same, both fascinating. One's really gross and made of webs, the other's made of rocks and lovely. Hopefully one day we can find out the real creator of these sculptures so we can give them the proper credit they deserve. But number 3, mosquitoes. These guys suck no matter where you are, but when it comes to the Amazon, it's much worse than you could ever imagine, of course, as if anything else is not calming in there. Mosquitoes are one of the most dangerous because they can fly. You don't see them coming, and once they get you, too late, the damage has already been done. They have your blood, now they're gonna go sell it on the black web. If you travel to parts of the Amazon rainforest and you don't have yellow fever vaccinations or extremely strong mosquito repellent, then you are going to have an extremely bad time. Yeah, these guys are just clouds of malaria waiting for you to walk right into. And that's so disgusting. I can't even do it. Even cottages, I can't do it. I'm not a fan of mosquitoes. Number 2, bullet ants. Ugh, Ant-Man would not fight this ant. No way. They're called bullet ants because their bite feels like a bullet wound, so that is a promising start, my friends. It's also referred to as a Paraponera clavata. The bullet ant is commonly found in tropical rainforests in Central and South America. Their sting is considered the most powerful in the world, hence the, bullet alias, and its effects can last 24 hours. That's a long time to be in a horrible amount of pain. These guys get you in a colony though, game over. There's a good chance that you won't survive that. One was bad enough, let alone a colony. That's terrible. Its venom is so powerful that currently these ants are being studied for its use as a pesticide. So we're sacrificing ants in order to further their research on how to sacrifice ants. Number 1, Brazilian wandering spider. Alrighty, this spider can actually help you guys out. Let's do it. Its bite can give you an erection that lasts for hours. That's a real fact. This animal is also obviously dangerous. Its bite will also hurt, besides, that amazing side effect. You'll be sweating, blood pressure will increase, hence, that side effect. And they're more commonly known as banana spiders. It can be found, of course, in Brazil, and there's 8 different kinds of wandering spiders. So my advice, avoid them all. The science is quite interesting here though. They're trying to create the next Viagra by using the spider's venom.